helps about with their Big Ten schedule as well, right? Then they beat a ranked number 3 team when they played them. But I think Notre Dame was a 10 to 12 team. It's kind of what I thought going into it. I do think Tyler Buchner's probably going to transfer now because Drew Pine's the guy. It's pretty clear.
100%.
Offense is significantly more versatile with him. Yeah, then my my Bucks somehow pulled out a win yesterday, which is wild. And no, I don't think anybody can believe like how bad the Rams and Tampa Bay both are. And I know when they scheduled that game, they were probably just licking their chops, so pumped. They didn't schedule any other football games really with it on TV.
Right.
And then the whole world, including us suckers, because we're junkies, had to sit there and choose between that and the Arizona game as our only games to watch.
Hey, K9 was running like wild, so that guy is gonna win Rookie of the Year.
I could definitely talk about that guy today all day long. That is such a throwback football player.
Yeah.
Like he's getting up, he's covered in mud and dirt, and he just keeps lowering his shoulder and running him over. And I think it's showing that like I think some of these guys are soft playing defense because you get a guy like perfect example, Derrick Henry beats people up.
Yeah.
No one wants to tackle those guys in the third and fourth quarters. It's that simple. And I think that's what's happening down in Seattle. And they have two really good receivers. And then they have
Yeah.
a quarterback who's doing significantly more. Like I thought everybody's going to say like CMC, Saquon Barkley, comeback play of the year. Can someone please put Geno Smith in this category, like comeback player forever? Because we thought his career was over.
Well, yeah, I had this
Everybody wrote that guy off years ago.
I had this conversation with Rick and Kalen on the After Further Review show, and I nominated him to be the player of the year or the comeback player of the year. I think that, if it wasn't for the Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes of the world, you could maybe slide an MVP vote his way, but it's not going to happen. But you brought about Derrick Henry beating people down. Now we're gonna have to go and check on Kalen to see how his weekend was because I can see the Texas hat behind you, and I can see you wearing the New Jersey Devils hat. Uh, Luck, I don't see any Titan stuff, and I don't think you should.
Derrick Henry gear right over here,
Okay,
hidden behind the hot sauce, right, that we've got.
Yeah.
No, I had a mixed weekend. As you mentioned, my Devils were great. My Longhorns beat the Kansas State Wildcats. That was a great win. We could talk about that in a bit. I hate Kansas in general. It doesn't have to just be the Jayhawks, guys. And then, of course, the Titans game. I mean, up and down and 5 completions that somehow get us to overtime against the best offense in the NFL. Crazy. And you know what? It was like 20 degrees this weekend, right? Up here in southwestern Ontario. I got a chance to go golfing yesterday. My first full round of playing golf in like 4.5 years. I've been playing tournament golf like every other year. So best ball shit. So I went out, I had 5 pars, and all those pars were one putts, Shane. I'm getting excited. I don't want the season to end now.
Tuck your
Those
clubs
are like
away.
the greatest. Those are the best and worst pars.
Yeah.
Because like you don't make that putt, you're just like, fuck, I got another bogey. Then you're sitting here like, it looks great on the scorecard. You're like, I didn't make that one putt though.
Hey, that's a nice way to put the clubs away for 2022 though, right?
Absolutely, especially with my uncle and his couple of buddies, and I went home with $20. So all a good day.
There you go. You don't have to tell us what you did to earn that $20, but we will just assume it had something to do with it has something to do with winning golf. Yeah, lots of crazy things going on. We're counting down for kickoff. We got the Ravens and the Saints. So thanks for tuning in, joining us instead of watching whatever clowns are on ESPN. What was the big standout to you this weekend? And like the natural reaction is going to be the Jets beat the Bills.
Yeah.
But was that really the big storyline here? Because I got one in my mind, and I don't think anyone's talking about it. And we're gonna, I mean, you know me, I'm not gonna sit on it, but I'm gonna let you guys go first and tell me what your reaction is now.
I think we saw my biggest reaction from the weekend. We saw a slow burning fire starting throughout the season, and I think we saw it fully explode yesterday. And I think with the Lions beating Green Bay, we are beginning to see the end of an era in Green Bay. Like, I don't know how they've lost. All the receivers are injured now. They lost Rashawn Gary now for the rest of the season too. How much more can you chug along through this season before you throw in the towel? And is Rodgers going to want to go through, a top draft? Maybe they finally get a top 5 draft pick and they draft a wide receiver for him, right? Wouldn't that be something? But does he want to even stay around? This place is a mess cap wise. I don't even know what they're going to be like next year, but we expected a lot from them this season and they have fallen flat on their face. And how much more can you repair in one season to bring you up that much, right?
They don't have a choice but to hold on to him. But
Well, when he retires, what I'm saying, right? Because that has been floated around for the last couple of weeks. That there's a story that people are close to Rodgers are saying that he's going to retire at the end of the season. And if he had one foot out the door after the last few weeks, I'm sure he's got both feet out the door at this point, right?
I'm gonna give you his cap numbers for the next couple of years here, just for a quick second, because I just pulled it up. If he were to retire and not play next year, the Packers will have a minus $68 million hit to their cap.
Just ask the Falcons what it's like to take like a $50+ million hit for getting rid of your QB, right?
Yeah, and
I mean, hey, they're not doing too bad. That was a team that I think they had the right pieces in place to do that. I don't know if Green Bay has the right pieces in place to be able to succeed after Aaron Rodgers if he was to leave.
So my take to the whole thing is going. It's kind of related to what you're talking about, and that's why I'm kind of hoping that Chad says the next thing that I want to hear. That way, even without planning, I already knew what you guys were going to say, so I had this lined up. Chad, where are we at?
The one I've taken away from it, and like, this is obviously just me, I was actually just double checking it. Is Sean McVay shit without his assistants? Everybody has walked away. They all got head coaching jobs. It happens when your team is successful.
Yeah.
And so he lost Zach Taylor a couple years ago, lost Kevin O'Connor, and Kevin O'Connor's looking like a genius in Minnesota. All of a sudden, they got imagination. So it was actually Kevin O'Connor, the brains behind the St. Louis Rams last year, that offense last year. Whatever.
It is
LA
the
Rams, St. Louis Rams. It
You're
is
correct.
right. It was the St. Louis Rams. They beat Tennessee. That's what I was doing there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was O'Connell. Was he the brains the whole time? Because Sean McVay, like, they do not look good.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of what I've taken away from it. Like, watch it, and I just double checked his coaching staff. Like, they got dismantled the last 2 years, and it's very clear now. Like, without those assistants, maybe Sean McVay isn't the guy that everybody thought he was.
And coming back to this, there's something that also with the Titans losing last night too. I want to kind of echo something that happened here yesterday. They lose the Rams lose yesterday, and Jalen Ramsey publicly calls out his offense and them needing to do more. This is a culture that was supposed to be built in LA that everybody wanted to play for McVay. You had Aaron Donald pushing you around until they got the contract that he wanted, even though we know this is probably his last season or second last season there. He's doing whatever the hell he wants with them. He pushed them around. You got OBJ, you're pretty much dangling the carrot for, saying, please come back home. Please come back home. You obviously made a mistake getting rid of Robert Woods. He's not doing very well in Tennessee either. But like the Rams, like the culture that they were supposed to have, then you look at the Titans the last 2 weeks, 10 total completions, okay? Offense has been horrendous outside of the running game. The defense is the only reason that we won last week, and the only reason we were in the game last night. And today, Mike Vrabel comes out to the press and says, I have not heard it, and I will never hear my defensive players go to the offense or ever talk to the public media and say, I need them to start picking up the pace and picking up the slack or doing their jobs, because we're all in this together. And it isn't looking like they're in it together over in LA. It's not looking pretty, right? And that's kind of this is what happens when you start trading first round picks. They already got this big crown on their head when they get to the team because they know their value. And then you blow it up that much more with these contracts that you're throwing around. Now what do? Your back is against the wall. You can't trade these guys because the cap hit to your team is detrimental. You have no draft choices to kind of fix yourself through the draft. You're talking about getting rid of McVay? Then the next guy is going to have the same kind of problem. I think there's one person I think that really needs to leave the organization, and unfortunately, it's Jalen Ramsey. I think that calling out publicly like that's not needed in a time when you're already kind of having a difficult time with your offense.
Yeah, that's a conversation you have closed doors with your head coach. If you're that upset, obviously he's the leader on that team, so I understand why he spoke. But if you have that problem, like all he said was, we should have had to go back on the field, which is a valid comment, honestly. Like, as a guy that has coached football before, like, I understand where he's coming from. Like, you expect your team to get a first down and end this game, especially with the firepower they have, with the people they've brought in. Like, I was really laughing today when I was listening to that, and I was like, holy shit! It's like, are the Rams the Lakers? Like, are they just imploding from inside? You made like the dream teams, and like we talked about it last year with Tampa Bay too. You make the dream teams, and all of a sudden, when it starts imploding, the fingers just get pointed everywhere, and it's on national news because everybody, like, you were the talk of the town.
Yeah, And looking around the league, look at the teams that are struggling, look at the offenses that are struggling, the defenses that are doing well, the players that are breaking out. The college game has taken over the NFL. And it's not that this, like, the rinky dink air raid offense, like, that's not taking over the NFL, but start looking around at what's happening. Mac Jones did not run a high powered offense in college, and that's why he's kind of starting to struggle a little bit. And I mean, yes, he had weapons, but look at Tua, look at Jalen Hurts, look at, like, just look around the league. Patrick Mahomes, Josh, these guys with the college skill set are taking it into the NFL. Some of the coaches are following them into the NFL, and the Tom Brady's, the Aaron Rodgers, it just doesn't match and mesh anymore with what the league needs to do and what the league is doing. Defenses have caught up and are getting so much more athletic because they're used to chasing around the air raid. They're used to chasing around all these different things that the college teams are doing. By the time they get to the NFL, they're happy that there's a quarterback sitting in the pocket. They're happy that Matt Stafford's sitting there in the pocket. They're happy that Aaron Rodgers is running around trying to throw it behind his back, and defensive ends are picking them off. Like, that's what these guys do in college now. Like, this is the college defense, and the college offense is there. And until you know Brady's going to be back next year. I think that's a safe thing to say. I've been talking about it for years with Chad. I said he's going to be a 49er. I think that's happening next year. I think Brady's going to be a 49er next year. And I'm sure that he's going to be able to figure it out with all the guys that they got going on down there, because this isn't the way Brady's going out. But all these big name quarterbacks have left their teams and are going to leave their teams in a bad spot. And it's because getting paid $50 million right now, I would rather, just watching the way that things are going, I would rather pay Lamar Jackson $50 million to be my quarterback than Tom Brady. What world do we live in? What world do we live in?
Well, you were talking about like the statues in the pocket. It just kind of reminded me of, when we're playing Madden and somebody says, "Oh, I want to pick, the Bucks because they've got all the great players in the team." And you're like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead, because I'm going to blitz 7 or 8 people every play at you, and you're not going to run away from me, right?" But if they got the Lamar Jacksons, you're like, "Son of a bitch!" It's like Michael Vick of 2004, right? It's just
Yeah.
terrible. So I know exactly what you're saying with the statues in the
Yeah.
pocket. We saw that. We saw Matt Ryan. I mean, he's the third string quarterback now, right? These statues are starting to become few and far between. Aaron Rodgers has lost 3 steps, not just one. So,
Yep.
I mean, he actually is the statue in the pocket, especially the red zone after yesterday, right? This
And then
game here
shoes.
is completely changing. You're going to have a two-way quarterback no matter what, right?
Yeah, your quarterback has to be able to run and make plays, or you're not going to convert first downs. Like, the defenses are getting good, like, way better. The pass rushers are getting faster. You have to be able to outsmart one of these guys coming off the edge and sneak inside and pick up a first down. Like, Tom Brady tried to do that yesterday. He actually made a pretty athletic play that got called back on a penalty. Chad, you know what I'm
Oh,
talking about?
yeah.
Yeah.
Where he ducked under, and you know what? Like, he's trying to do those things, and that was something that was needed in the moment. But he can't do that 10 times in a game. He's maybe got that like 3 times left in his career to be able to do that. So he wasted one on that.
I think he had
Can
more
we
rushing yards this year than he has his whole career, right?
can we
Yeah.
talk about Kirk Cousins, how sneaky athletic that guy was? Because I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
think there's a person in the world knew that Kirk Cousins could run.
Of all
I,
the things you want to bring up, it's the
I
sneaky
want.
athleticism and not the dance party that he held in the plane after
Well,
the
I'm
game.
sure the world has talked about.
Yeah.
I think they were calling him Kurt Thuggo, is what they were calling him.
Yeah.
Look, I
Oh
watched
yeah,
that guy
Kurt
play at Michigan
Thuggin.
State, man. He knows exactly what he's doing. Like, that's a guy that's still in his, like, wiggle room, and 2 years from now he won't be able to make that play. But right now, like, he's still got a little bit of that athleticism,
Yeah.
the little bit to get him over the top. When I watch Kirk Cousins play, because the last time I told you guys, I thought it was a mix between Justin Herbert and Brett Favre was what I was hoping Pickett would be. I think that Kenny Pickett is Kirk Cousins. When I watch them, like, Kirk Cousins is probably a better passer, but that's
Kirk
who I think
Cousins
he
with
is.
2 gloves.
Yeah, I was watching the game yesterday. And I was like, all right, I guess I'll have to sign up for this. I mean, I watched him. I mean, at least I had him at Michigan State, so yeah, cool, whatever. Like, if this is the ceiling, let's do it.
Like, talking about
Well,
these young quarterbacks, how the game's changed. Perfect example is the Bears have just said, Justin Fields, we're going to let you go back to being Justin Fields at OSU.
Yeah,
We're done trying to keep you in the pocket. We're not going to make you a great passer. We're gonna have Justin Fields, a football player, be our quarterback, and it's like that's where these coaches have to go now. I think all like you just said, like the college games now coming in, we have to accept it. These old school coaches have to just accept that and let their brain get out of it. Let these guys, if they're gonna run, let them run.
Right.
And you almost like you got to roll the dice and like kind of put your cards on the table, like Lamar Jackson. Like, should he run as much as he does? Probably not. But you're only handicapping yourself by not letting him do those things. And I think in Chicago, like in a great game they played yesterday offensively, he was probably the best player on the field, I think, for both teams. But he did it with his legs and his arm. It didn't have to just be one way. And I think the Chicago Bears are going to be a significantly better offensive team if this is how they're going to let him go.
Yeah, and we don't have to change topics because I want to stick on this, but I did feel like it was time to interject our bet of the night with Cool Bet. We don't have anything labeled on there because I got it in a little bit too late, and I didn't write down the odds because I'm not smart enough to think of that kind of stuff ahead. But it's all relevant to what we're talking about, and this is what it is. Liam could maybe find us the odds for this. It is Lamar Jackson and Andy Dalton both to have an anytime touchdown. If my memory serves me correctly, that's in like the plus 1500 range. That's not far fetched for Lamar Jackson to get in there. All you need is Andy Dalton to be on the 5 yard line. He can still move around a little bit. So that is my bet of the night.
Hammering
What's that?
home. All right.
Liam's going to track down those odds for us, but let's keep rolling with this.
But Minnesota, staying on them. Geez, Hawkinson, hell of a first game. I mean, we knew the guy had talent. He had it over in Detroit, and I don't think he's going to skip a beat. And now Irv Smith, right? He's out for is it 5 weeks or 6 weeks? Like, what are they looking at? Do we know?
No, 10. He's on IR. He's done for the year.
For the year, so he can't make it
Yeah.
back for the playoffs.
No. And
Son of
so,
a bitch, eh?
so yeah. So I mean, everything that we're talking like kind of based on the college offense and what the quarterbacks are doing now, and like it's relevant to your point. When was the last time in like a season that you can remember these guys getting traded so close to the trade deadline and making an immediate impact? And it's because of the simplification of what offense is right now. And these guys are just utilizing skill sets the same way that you would do in college, where you're an athlete, you're really good at being an athlete when you do this. I'm just going to have you do this a bunch of times.
And like
And talking about the trade deadline, though, but when have we seen that many trades in a year?
There's 20 trades this year.
Yeah, like I remember staying home from school, playing Madden with Rick, and watching the trade deadline, and one, maybe two trades happening. Like they're just taking it right out of the NHL trade book, right? It's actually become a day now in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean the biggest name used to get traded was Algie Crumpler. Nowadays, like first round picks in your fantasy draft are getting moved.
Mm-hmm.
Like the big one I talked about, like the Hawkinson thing, is like a lot of tight ends run option routes anyways. Like you're just gonna read off the Sam or read off a safety's play. Like it's kind of what you're doing anyways. And Kevin O'Connell knows that. Like he was an offensive corner. Like he made Higbee look really good in St. Louis, in LA. I got myself in that one.
Right.
And so yeah, having an offensive mind like that, and Kirk Cousins, who has used tight ends in his past, he used them all the time in Washington. And then Irv Smith has been a pretty good one. And then I was actually listening to Kirk Cousins' interview today, and how he found out he was getting Hawkinson was phenomenal. O'Connell just kind of said to him, like, hey, like, I know we need a tight end. Like, I don't know what we're going to do. Like, Irv's done for the year. So, like, just give me a little bit. We'll get something sorted out. And so he reached out, he's like, hey, we got this sorted out. We have an idea. We think you might like it. And he's like, I was really nervous and worried about what they're going to tell me. Next thing you know, he's like, yeah, we got you Hawkinson. That's how we found out. He's like, yeah, I think this could work.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll make it work.
And even Delvin Cook is catching beautiful passes in the end zone. What a beautiful catch that was for him for a running back, right?
Well, look,
think what the weapons they have now. They have Thielen, probably could be the best number 2 receiver. He'd be number 1 on a lot of teams. He was the number 1 there for until they drafted a stud in Justin Jefferson.
Yep.
Now you have a Pro Bowl tight end who can block. Maybe not as good as George Kittle, but like great blocker still, has no problem blocking, good hands, decent speed. And you have a running back, the Devin Cook, who used to get 70 catches a year before they have to, like when there was only one receiver there.
The NFC is really starting to separate. The cream of the crop is really starting to come to the top there, aren't they? Except for, I mean, I'm still not willing, as much as I have loved the G-Men in years past, I think this is just a momentum team right now at this point. I I still can't look at those standings and think, that's a team that's going to carry themselves in December and January, maybe February. No.
I think the problem
They
is you
could
got to
run the
think.
ball. So if you can run the ball, then you're automatically competitive in playoff football.
I think it's the problem is that they play against Dallas and Philly twice. That's kind of what's going to hurt them. Like that's a couple losses right there, and if you throw an extra loss or two, all of a sudden you might be in that 6th seed in the playoffs, and that's a road game. Like I don't think anybody wants to go into New York in the playoffs, but if you're going to be a lower seed team, then yeah, you're going to have that road game, and that's where they might suffer.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of new teams that are going to be kind of showing face, or at least the way that it's looking right now. I mean, after 9 weeks, as a fan of whatever team you are, you pretty much know if you're worried about January or if you're worried about April, right? Like, I'm worried about April now. I don't really give a shit what happens in January. I'm going to watch the games either way, but my illusion of the Steelers having a winning season, long gone. My illusions of them being in the playoffs, that's gone too. It's all over for me. And there's a lot of like the Packers fans.
Okay, so you're talking about illusions, right? There was
Yeah.
wool pulled over some eyes this past season. People got some big extensions on their contracts, and their offense is not living up to it. And they get in arguments every single week right now in Arizona, right?
Yeah,
That's a team that is absolutely stuttering right now. Their coach is getting in fights. DeAndre Hopkins is arguing with Kyler Murray on the sideline. Murray just got a contract. Kingsbury just got a contract. Kime just got, is that his name? Kime, I think his name. He just got a contract extension. These are like 5-year guys that are tied to themselves, except for Murray, I think is longer than that. Like, what are they going to do? Arizona's going to be in some real trouble here.
Just a spoiled brat from Oklahoma, eh?
Base should have got to play baseball, Kyler.
Yeah. Big trial. I mean, they're still paying James Conner like a decent amount of money, and they went and invested that first round pick into Marquise Brown. I don't know, man.
That too, I totally forgot about that. So even draft capital is again weakened there, right? Like,
well,
they have a draft pick.
The one that they picked, the draft pick that they gave up was the one from last year. Like it was an in-draft trade, so Baltimore used it on that day. So draft capital wise, they'll at least have their first round pick coming up. But I mean, did you really want to give up? And I guess so. It'll be interesting to get Hopkins and Brown on the field together. But at this point, we're looking at December before that even happens. Their season's written off too, right? Like this is
they won 2 games.
They're 3-6 right now in a very competitive.
I thought they were 2-7. I thought they had 2 wins.
No, yeah, they're
I think they're 3-6.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, and it's not like the NFC has still got some movement that can happen there in that middle pack, right? But like, you're certainly not looking at your own division. I mean, look at Seattle, San Francisco. You're not going to be able to play those guys. Like, you haven't been able to do it already. San Francisco always kind of takes you to the ringer anyway. Like, this team is again. How shitty is it for those fans coming into this offseason after the additions that they were able to make and the money that they spent, and for them to fall flat on their face. And usually it happens in November, December time at the end of the season when the league has figured out their offense. It can only get more ugly from here based on what's happened in the past with them.
Yeah, Liam's come through in the clutch here and put it into the group chat or into the chat for the show. But the odds for that bet that I just laid out for you plus 2,500. So just the idea of putting that money, you're essentially just putting it behind Dalton because Lamar Jackson's getting in the end zone tonight on a run. So go ahead.
Almost like the odds in like the point spread, the Titans game last night. 14 at kickoff.
Yeah, that 14 at kickoff was tough to look at. It was nice. I got it at 12. I got it at 12 and a half. I got it at 13. And then I got it again at 14. So I was just raking every time I don't know why the number kept moving up.
5 times?
Yeah, the number just kept moving up and I just kept taking it. There's nothing I can do. I'm going to chase it. If I felt so good about it, there was nothing more vindicating when I saw Malik Willis throw a back shoulder throw, taking it down to the 2-yard line. I was like, I don't even think that guy's going to ever do that in the NFL again. But, that guy played out of his mind. But he's another prime example of the original conversation. He can get out of the pocket, so he makes the defense think a little bit more about it. The second you have to put your spy in there, it opens up your receivers. And anytime there's somebody paying attention to somebody that's not Derrick Henry on your offense, it's obviously good news for them. I'm not going to pretend like I didn't fall asleep at the end of the fourth quarter. I didn't see overtime, I rewatched it again this morning. Not sure what Tennessee was, why they were trying to lose so bad, but they covered. So I'm happy that they covered.
Now, I'm really pissed off because so you obviously saw the 3 attempts at the 2-point conversion. I put it in the group chat. Did you happen to get the chance to watch that where Kelsey ripped the DB's helmet right off his fucking head? And somehow it was a holding call in the Titans, and that gave them the third opportunity at the 2-point, which then they got.
Yep.
Like, and then what I love is that Vrabel was able to call him out, and he's done that, for a few weeks in a row now. Or not call him, like make a mention that the Twitter handles that. I love that line. But this is the shit that I'm talking about. Kelsey, the Chiefs, they have done this countless times. I always watch the games because they're such a fun offense to watch. But it's no different than what DeAndre Hopkins has done for the last decade as a wide receiver. He's successful because he pushes off every single time. Travis Kelsey is successful at this point in his career. He's still athletic, but he's certainly lost a step. We saw it in the playoffs. And what he's figured out is I don't have to use my leverage anymore. I can just throw you around a little bit because I'm bigger than you, and it just looks like I'm overpowering you. That's all it looks like. It leads me back to like that penalty call that's famous when there was no penalty on the play. The player was simply outmanned or outmaneuvered, maneuvered or whatever it was. Like that's what it reminds me of is that Kelsey just finds the smallest guy to pick on the field and then gets away with pushing him around and gets open. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I mean, you definitely got an opinion, and I'm glad that you're not holding any ill will towards the game last night, because I think that if nothing else, Ryan Tannehill's like days are numbered in Tennessee.
Oh wow! You think off of a 5 completion night after 10 completions in 2 weeks, you think that his days are numbered?
The fact that Tannehill's out is only making Derrick Henry that much better, and I think that that's the kind of team that they want. It was described in the game by, I think it was Collinsworth. They called it a rock fight, and Tennessee wants to be in a rock fight, and like that's perfect description of what the Tennessee Titans are. They they will have no problem getting hit in the face with a rock as long as they can hit you in the face with one too.
Yeah, I like that description. I mean, you know what, Shane? I like your talk about the Titans. It's not often that you speak highly of them. I think that's a
It's
really
only because
high.
they won on money last night. You know that, right?
Yeah, 5 separate times.
Oh, but I was texting them even before that, like that.
Yeah, I remember you
Yeah.
saying 12 and a half. What is that? And I remember saying it's only because they don't have Tanny's out. And then I can't believe that it still moved another point and a half. That's just incredible.
So I mean, the number should have came down when they ruled out Tannehill because they knew they were only going to throw it 5 times. The guy can't mess it up if he only throws it 5 times. And offensive, like how? But he must have rushed for like 50 yards at least,
Well,
right?
no, he only had like the 3 really big breaks. I think he had less than 40 yards.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. It seemed like he was more impactful. The offense was more simplified. The defense wasn't put in any really uncomfortable positions.
40, yeah, he had
And
40 yards. But you still had like, the reason he was impactful was because the read option. You mentioned it. Like
yeah,
they had to account for him, so then it opened up a lane for Derrick Henry. Like Henry still finished the night with almost 7 yards on average, but he only carried it 8 times in the second half. And I don't care. I know there was a lot of penalties that kind of screwed up some drives, and there was the drop catch by Conley there. But like you don't if you I don't care if it's 1st and 15 or 1st and 17. If your running back is averaging 7 yards a carry, you pound the rock twice. You make third down manageable for your rookie quarterback, right?
right. Well, look, I mean, the AFC is pretty top heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty fair to say Buffalo, Kansas City, and we'll get into Buffalo in a sec. Then your Tennessee and Baltimore is kind of your next tier there. Maybe if you want to sneak Cincinnati into the conversation, you can with a healthy Jamar Chase. Maybe I guess I'm
Oh,
not
so
gonna.
now even after the weekend, you want to put Cincinnati above the Jets because I think you're going to lead into the Bills here. So you want to
Yeah,
put
yeah. So let's go Bills and Jets here. One, I don't think that the Jets are very good, and their defense is fine. Their receiving core, like Garrett Wilson's decent. Michael Carter is a second round pick in the league, so definitely not a bad player. The Bills did the exact same thing that they did to Miami, who I don't think Miami is very good either. They overlooked the team, and they're starting to look past people. And this is the thing that we talked about before, and we talked about a little bit with the Bucks in a previous episode. Uh, Coaches always talk about the moment being too big for players. Well, in these kind of moments, the moment wasn't big enough for them. The
The,
the Bills players, they want the front center stage. They want the primetime games. They don't want to play at 1 o'clock on CBS. They want to be at Sunday Night Football. They want to be on Monday Night Football. They want to show out for people. And the Jets showed up to play. The Bills didn't. I'll tell you, when I saw Josh Allen grab his elbow, it made me think of Ben Roethlisberger in 2019 when he got hit in that game against the Seahawks and he missed the entire year with the UCL strain. That's what they're evaluating Josh Allen for right now.
Yeah, I was just about to
And
say that. That's crazy. I didn't know that Roethlisberger had the same injury. How long was Roethlisberger out for?
The year.
he got surgery done for the year. They gave him Tommy
So
John.
he had surgery because it doesn't.
Yeah.
I was reading about it today. It doesn't always require surgery. I mean, they're going to figure that out with Josh, but I didn't know that was what his injury was for the year.
Yeah. So that would be he would be done for the year if he had to get it. Based on what I read before I came on here, it looks like he's gonna be able to play Week 10. You know, there's shit without him. Case Keenum is the backup in Buffalo, so
that's astounding with that type of injury and where it is, with the power and the torque that he has on his arm and his elbow, that he thinks he's gonna be able to come back here in a couple of weeks.
That's the thing. If he can throw the ball, and you know he might feel good, like sit out a couple practices. If he throws the ball and torques it too hard, and that is what happened to Roethlisberger, was he was playing through an injury and he torqued it, and then he got surgery out for the season. The Bills are in big trouble, and they need to get their head screwed back on straight. Just like the Miami loss, this is probably the best loss for them. A chance to reevaluate, pull it together. You had an emotionally dead inside Jets team who just lost to the Patriots, thinking that was going to be their coming out party, and they just got pounded. And you let them take it to you. Zach Wilson stinks. He's not a good quarterback. Maybe he'll be good in a couple of years, but out of that draft class, give me Justin Fields all day, all night.
So UCL is a Tommy John. I didn't know that. It's also, if they get the surgery, it's usually Tommy John surgery, eh?
I would think. I mean, not a doctor.
So how long is Allen out for then? Is he going to miss any action?
Well, he was. Yeah, Shane, they didn't announce it. Shane was saying he had read like 2 weeks or something like that. Everything that I'm seeing is usually like at least several week kind of recovery there.
Like
it's the same thing as the MCL in the knee. It's the same exact type of ligament there, and there's nothing you can do outside of just rest and gradual stretching as time goes on.
Like the report that I read, he's missing no time.
That's crazy.
Like, he gonna be okay to play in that? Like, me and Shane talk about all the times we're both battered and old men who can't walk downstairs sometimes. But like, is he gonna be able to play up in Buffalo with that elbow, Shane?
It's gonna be tough, man. Like,
it'd be the Navy offense. Listen, if there's a quarterback in the NFL that can take the pounding and run a Navy type offense for one full game, right? It could be Josh Allen.
Yeah, this isn't one game though, man. They got they still like 8 weeks left plus playoffs.
The thing is, like, look at like all these pitchers in baseball, and you know they get it to maintain the velocity in their fastball. Because if you don't get it, you're just like anybody else. You're going to start to decline. So if that Josh Allen fastball starts to slow down a little bit, and that deep ball loses a couple extra yards, et cetera, that offense is not the same. Gabe Davis can't run a ball if you can't outthrow him. Stephon Diggs can't outrun a ball if you can't outthrow him. I think that the Bills might be in trouble if if this is as serious as it looked, because the guy grabbed his elbow, and I had an immediate. I could tell you at what point in the game it was against when the Steelers were playing Seattle. It was just outside of the first quarter, and I watched him grab his elbow, and I was like, "Holy fuck! Now I got to deal with Mason Rudolph for a whole year." I could tell you that the Case Keenum of the world do not want to be going into this game and blowing the season for the Bills.
Could we talk about the one big news that came out today? Because I'm sure like Kalen just really got like an instant boner when this happened.
Of course.
Look at I can see it coming to the bottom of his screen right now. Indianapolis Colts fire Frank Reich,
which is the right move.
100% the right move. And then they hired Jeff Saturday, who was coaching high school football, to be their head coach. They lost their OC. They already fired him. They have no one on their staff that's ever called a football game before. Yeah, and you're gonna go in there with like Sam Ellender. Like, why? Why was this the move? So is Matt Ryan gonna call plays? That's my only question.
I have a serious question though.
Well, because
why weren't you answering your phone when they were calling you, Chad?
Because they did not call me. Yeah,
because your credentials are higher than Jeff Saturday's credentials.
You know what's crazy?
At the moment, they are, and I'm kind of upset about it. I need a better agent. Is what happened.
Yeah,
So
no
the,
shit.
the, the first when they announced the hiring of Saturday, I think Schefter had tweeted out or Rappaport tweeted out something to the effect of now Ursay has got his inside man that can give him the scoop of what's happening with the team from the heart because he's been obviously he was a center for the Colts for a long time. He's in the Ring of Honor. He's been an advisor on the council for some time with Ursay. Um, and then I
He was an
read
NFLPA guy too, was he not?
Yeah, I think you're
yeah.
right.
I don't think he wasn't like a union head, not like what JC Trottier or whatever it is, but no,
I
he
think he was
was
a
up
team
there.
rep though, I believe.
Yeah. But then I read that Ursay offered him a front role with the team 10 years ago to the day, pretty much. So um, I think it's kind of weird that to me when the story comes out that Schefter puts he's got this inside man, it's like now you got your bootlicker. Now you got your guy. Like who wants to go and play there as a team or as a player, right? You've got this guy who's tied up with the coach. Any mistake you make might go to that coach or that owner who right now is he is heated, right? Like he can't stand losing the Titans. He can't stand being bad in the division. And so far, he has done both of those things over the last 4 years. This guy really wants to make a switch. He's tried to invest money chasing veteran quarterbacks. So I don't know,
Like,
man.
at
Who
what
wants
point
to
is
play an
Chris
Yeah.
injury?
Ballard fired?
Oh,
Yeah,
Because
well,
right.
that's
that's
the
coming
real
down the
question,
pipe. But
right?
Chad, I think that you've hurt our friend Nick Newman's feelings talking about Matt Ryan the way you're talking about him.
Okay, we were talking about statues before. So there's Matt Ryan.
The statue in the pocket.
Like, I think that like I always make fun of Philly fans for thinking Rocky's a real person. I actually think that statue's more mobile than Matt Ryan.
Whoa. Whew.
Wow.
Yikes. Yeah, well,
You,
hey, I
you are
mean, if
right though about Ballard. You were totally right. This guy's been living off of draft laurels for far, far too long. And right now, where are your draft picks? Right? Jonathan Taylor fell off a cliff. Quentin Nelson does not look the same, has not looked the same in 2 years. Pretty much since he's got paid, has not looked the same. You've never found an answer for your right tackle. Your left tackle position has fallen apart. Shaquille Leonard has not been healthy. Your defense, you traded away Rocky Sin, which was probably a mistake for you. Ballard has lived off of these little victories in the draft for the last few years. And I'm surprised they weren't gone at the same time together, especially with the hiring of Jeff Saturday. There's no way that Ballard had any input in that.
well, so there's a hot take going around right now, and no one's betting on the Colts to win the division.
If you fucking tell
And
me Peyton Manning's going to be the fucking GM,
no, no, no,
No,
no.
I don't think
He's making too much money. But
He'll go to Denver
uh,
if he goes anywhere.
the big take out there right now is that the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to win that division. I don't know how you feel about that, and I understand, and I just supported you, but the Tennessee division is getting, or the Tennessee schedule down the stretch is tough, and I did
Yeah.
look at it. They have
Yeah.
they have a lot of big names on the schedule. Jacksonville doesn't, and I think that if Jacksonville can sneak their way back into this thing, that win yesterday against the Raiders was huge. I think that the Colts are dead.
Okay. So
They're another one of those teams that they have no quarterback. They're on their downward spiral, and they have there's no end in sight there's no bottom at that pit right now.
thank you. I love hearing that. I was saying earlier, nothing has been prettier than seeing this team completely collapse over the last 5 years. I'm so glad that I'm living through it and not reading about it 40 years from now. But now coming back to your Jacksonville take there, or what the hot take that is, these guys just lost 5 games in a row. They beat
Yeah.
the friggin' Raiders, who also have lost like 4 or 5 games in a row. Like the Jags still haven't played the Titans. And if you're telling me the Titans just took the best offense in the league to overtime with 5 completions, and I've been harping, I've been banging this drum about Jacksonville, how basic that offense is, and how this generational talent that was Trevor Lawrence coming to the league is certainly not showing it, even with all the weapons he's been given it. It's an extremely basic offense. I just don't see that thing being successful down their stretch. I mean, they still have to play the Chiefs and us twice. And then still Houston, who took them to task a little bit earlier this season too. So they won.
What did Trevor Lawrence ever do to you? Like,
I know.
because
Didn't
you
do
were really
anything.
upset
It's just
with
the
it.
fact that it's just in my division. It seems to always be these generational talents that get drafted there. It was Deshaun was one of those big guys, the Andrew Luck, and then
I can tell you
Trevor
right now,
Lawrence.
Deshaun Watson, the words generational talent was never used.
Yeah, he's generational something, but all right.
And Andrew Luck, I agree, wasn't a generational talent.
Okay,
He just broke his neck.
Tennessee schedule. They got the Broncos. That's a win. They have to go to Green Bay. I'm still going to call that a win. But then Bengals is a loss. Eagles is a loss. Jacksonville's a toss up. They have to go to the Chargers, play the Cowboys, And
You guys have not been behind the Chargers, so don't start hyping them right now.
I'm just saying, as Justin Herbert's been getting healthier, he's been looking better.
Mhm.
And the Jacksonville schedule is not as hard, man. Like,
They still have
They
to
have
play the
they have a
Chiefs, the
last place
Ravens,
schedule.
the Cowboys, and us
so
twice.
Jacksonville has to play the Chiefs bye week, Ravens, and then they play you guys twice, which again that makes it a little bit more divisive. And they have the Texans a couple of times. They have the Lions. Just
But they haven't.
there's a
Oh,
couple
wow.
swing games in there that can make things happen.
I guess.
I'm just
There's
saying,
still
if you're a
like-
betting man looking for plus money and you like to win it, go put money on the Jaguars to win the division.
And put a little bit on
Yeah,
Jacksonville.
yeah, it'd be absurd not to. Just like
I
it's
would.
absurd.
You know what? I will.
Hey, it's absurd to cook your eggs in the morning and not put this lovely peaches and pepper going for two exclusive sauce on it. Hit up one of the boys. We got sauce around here. We can get you set up. All the stuff that Chad dropped off to me is pretty much gone, so I'm gonna have to hit him up for some more. Local, farmed, made by the Hot Sauce Co. Check it out. It's great. It's literally great on everything. I've talked to people that have bought it. Nobody has put it on something and they're like, "Oh, it didn't work on this." So I know that it's been said before, but you can literally put this shit on anything.
I was wondering if you were going to go there with that.
Yeah, I went there. Yeah, I'm not a copyright kind of guy. I don't care.
Yeah. Ask our first YouTube warning.
Yeah, right. Yeah, forever young, baby. Yeah. So what else is going on? I kind of got us off track there. The Jaguars stink. Texans stink. That division kind of sucks. Did we give enough credit to the Jets? I think we kind of skipped Chad on the Jets, right? I started talking about the Josh Allen injury. I'm curious on Chad's opinion of the Jets.
I agree with you that Zach Wilson's not that good. I think everybody fell in love with him throwing routes on air at his pro day. And that's what it came down to.
Right.
I said it then, I'll say it again. I would not have drafted a virgin with my first round draft pick as a quarterback. It's that simple. Like,
Fair.
how are you supposed to lead men? No one's gonna respect you in that change room. It's that simple. You went to BYU. I would not have drafted him in the first round. And outside of that, their defense is playing lights out. I think that's what we've all come to expect what the Jets are. In the mid 2000s, that's what they did. They played great defense, had borderline quarterback play, and made playoff runs. Which works. That, like I said, they're in the Northeast. That works up there. The Bills have a great running quarterback, so that's why they're working on it so well. The guy can throw a ball a mile. But as Kalen said, like, if you're running the Navy offense, not a bad guy to do it with. Outside of Lamar Jackson, might be the only other pick you'd want to do that with. Maybe
Right.
Justin Fields. But yeah, like the Jets, I don't think they're anything special. They have a great. I do think they have a great young defense. Sauce Gardner might be one of the best corners in the league right now, and he's only been in the league for 9 games.
Defensive rookie of the year right now, anyway.
I think he's locking up number one receivers every single
Josh
week.
got lost in the sauce, right? This is just becoming a weekly thing now. About Sauce Gardner getting a pick.
Yeah.
That was the line.
No, we get it.
It's just literally. I think like he's taking on top talent every single weekend and holding it down. So he's definitely the right guy there. And you have, once again, you have a corner that can do that. They had Darrell Revis before. It worked out really well for them. But do I see that team going deep in the playoffs? No. I actually don't think Zach Wilson's any better than Mark Sanchez was. So that's what that's gonna be their Achilles heel. They've drafted receivers. You don't have a quarterback to get them the ball. Like, you're not gonna win football games throwing the ball for 100 yards a game. It's not gonna happen.
See, 25 minutes ago, though, Shane, your take was that if you can run the ball in the playoffs, you can be successful, especially if you have a defense. So those kind of go hand in hand.
I don't think the Jets will be able to run the ball. No one's going to respect their passing game. You have to still have the threat that you can throw a football.
Well, Garrett Wilson leads rookies over the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks or something like that with all receptions and receiving yards. I mean, I know it's a rookie take, but I mean, he's still coming into his own at the same time. Elijah Moore just turned into an absolute ghost. That's a huge problem for them. That was a big draft pick that has just been a complete absent, suspension, and then being gone after that. Did you talking about Zach Wilson? Did you see Gronk's little shot they took at him?
No.
He said that he's got to stay away from the parent-teacher conferences.
Classic. What a guy.
I know, right? I love it.
Yeah. Look, can the Jets run the ball? If they still had Breece Hall, yes. Michael Carter is exactly what Michael Carter was this year, which is the complementary piece to the feature runner. And that's what he was in college, too. I mean, Javonte Williams was the feature runner at North Carolina. Michael Carter was the guy that was the change of pace back. That's exactly what he needs to be. The problem is they went and traded for the exact same piece in James Robinson, and they didn't replace the guy that got hurt. So I don't think that they're a viable threat when
Robinson's
it
hurt
comes to
now,
the
isn't he?
playoffs. Yeah, I think Robinson did get hurt, but when they traded for him, they were I think that they were trying to make it so that he could be the pass catcher and Michael Carter's the other guy. I just don't think that Michael Carter's the other guy long term. He wasn't last year. He's not going to be this year. Most of these guys, and we keep like digging back into the college stuff, but most of these guys aren't used to being the feature back in college, so they can't be the feature back in the NFL. Even though the talent translates, they still need to be 100% of themselves for 15 touches as opposed to 85% of themselves for 25 touches. Um, you know, guy like Najee Harris is a perfect example of that. You look at Williams with the Broncos; he's hurt now, but when they don't split carries between him and Gordon, he just isn't a guy. Michael Carter's another one. Jonathan Taylor, who was used to taking a lot of touches, and we're not writing off Jonathan Taylor by any means, but the injuries have started to pile up because he can't take the NFL pounding, and pretty much Derrick Henry and maybe Kenneth Walker now because he's brand new. But if you want to have one running back, he needs to be built like a brick shit house. And there is no guys in the league that can take the kind of pounding that Derrick Henry takes. Jerome Bettis took back in the day. Like these are guys like real legitimate throwback guys.
Mike Allstott.
And
Yeah,
Mike
Like
Allstott, yeah,
Frank Gore, like those are the kind of
yeah,
backs
like
you go to
The
bang it.
inconvenient truth.
yeah, the the problem and the fact of the matter is that's probably going to be the reason that first round running backs start to dwindle off again is because you can't do it with one anymore. Now you need two, and you need two, and you can't use the draft capital on that because a third round offensive lineman isn't the same as whichever guy Notre Dame's producing this year to be the right guard for whoever because you know that they're always going to produce an offensive lineman and a tight end. So
And we've only
the,
got so many years left. I think in the last 4 years or five, the running game, like the passing game, obviously got really good, and then you have all these defenses that we're starting to stack their team with these the secondary DBs, the safeties, kind of thing. And then the running game was able to kind of attack that. That's what Tennessee did for the last few years, and the Ravens have done really well as well because the smaller guys don't want to take on the load or take on the 30 or 40 rush attempts a game, get really
right,
tiring, and then you get to the winter time, those hits they start really adding up at that point, right? But I think last couple of years coming into this draft upcoming, I've been looking at already. This term money backer has really blown up where you got a guy who can cover and he can lay the boom. Like Bolton is one of those guys on Kansas City that can
yeah.
smack somebody. I can't think. There's a guy on the Steelers who they had too that could do the two-way type of player. But that's what you're starting to see. The defense is starting to catch up with those money backers. So I do think we still have a little bit of time to see the running game attack, but I think it's going to start falling off again in a couple of years.
Well, yeah, and it kind of has to, but yeah, I don't know. What like I mean, you called offensive plays, Chad. So I mean, what does that kind of running back or not running back? Sorry, what does that kind of like linebacker hybrid kind of thing do for you?
Definitely makes it harder to run that side to side game because like that's where a lot of running backs routes are coming in. They are taped to the outside. But yeah, as Kalen said, like you call it the money back, or some guys call it a jack back, or some guy call it whatever, right? It's all the same fucking thing. You're a
Right.
DB that can hit. That's what you are. And his job, all to do is cover the flats, cover the hook zone, and that's really about it. And he also can play spy a lot. That's the other option that he does, right? So it makes it a bit harder to use plays to get your running back involved because it's more or less a DB that can sit in the box.
Right.
So as
And
far as running the game goes, now it's like you have a fourth linebacker in the game. So
yeah,
I find
for me, like if I was building a defense, I don't want a single corner under 6'2", and they got to have long arms and they got to be able to run. And all the linebackers are basically the small corners. Bring them in, make them gain 25 pounds. Don't get any slower, and you got to run your head into someone, and that's the end of it.
like you're going to see a lot of safeties in college. That's what they're going to do now. They're going to come and play a will linebacker's position, and
Right.
like I'll say they won't be Derek Brooks, but like that kind of style of a linebacker, where you're going
Hmm.
to have a free flow and you're going to run all over the field. because you're an undersized linebacker. You're about 215 pounds, but we know you can. It's almost like the Canadian football style of linebacker. That's
Right.
probably the best way I could describe it. Is a Canadian football style of linebacker who's going to that just kind of plays everywhere.
Like a
And
defensive halfback.
a little bit bigger than that, but same kind of concept. Yeah, like if you can't fly around, then there's no point of having you on the field now, because running backs are actually you're not getting the big boys anymore because they don't last.
Right.
You're gonna have that running receiver that can you're only have or you're splitting that time with a guy who can catch 5 or 6 balls a game.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So there was a penalty that happened yesterday in the Tennessee game, and I meant to bring this up earlier, and I didn't get a chance to. There was an offside. It was a second and goal from like the 6 yard line, and that's typically a 5 yard penalty, right? But it has to be half the distance to the goal. So because they're within the goal situation and it can't be more than a 5 yard penalty, you're giving the the defensive player the advantage because there is no automatic first down at this point. Do you guys, with all the bullshit that works against the defense and the like, what do you guys think of that rule? And because it comes up so infrequently, it's probably not a big deal. But the offensive player or the offensive team, and Tennessee at the time was the handicap team, right? Like they're 14-point dog, and second or third down, giving those guys first down is pretty important to them. I mean that not only burns time, but it gives them a better opportunity to score the touchdown and not have to kick a field goal. When I see something like that and I see all the other dumb shit that is an automatic first down, I'm so perplexed by how they came up with this rule book and how it makes any sense. Like, why is a 5 yard penalty when it's third and 20 a first down, but an offside, which is usually a 5 yard penalty, turns into a 3 yard penalty because of your proximity on the field, and there's no change in downs or anything? Doesn't make any sense to me.
I'll tell you right now, if you have the wrong person on the defense, it's the greatest rule in the world. You're gonna
Yeah,
just touch the guy in front of you and take that penalty all day long.
right. And if you're on the 2 yard line, give them the extra yard. Cool. Yeah. I mean,
Get your person
it's
on properly, right?
better than burning a timeout.
Yeah. I know.
The
I don't.
reasoning for it, I don't know. It makes no sense to me. I'm with you on that one, but I also know as a coach, I'll tell someone right now if you're the wrong person on the field, see the fuck penalty.
Right. Right. You'd almost have a signal for that. And, I talk about it like illegal man downfield. I'm sick of listening to it. And I don't even want to hear that penalty called anymore. It's going to keep happening. They need to switch it to the college rule where it's 3 yards instead of 1 yard. Not
No,
like
it's only,
that is
isn't it?
going.
It is 3 yard. I thought it was only 1 yard inside of 10 yards. It's or inside of when it's something to goal or something. They said it was 1 yard. Oh, they said it yesterday.
It's always so for NFL. It's always 1 yard.
Hmm.
Yeah, and in college it's always three. So you can block within 1 yard on like a screen pass and stuff, but yeah, it to me it doesn't make any sense. The game is evolving, the game's changing. If you want to have successful RPOs, you need to. It's an unfair advantage that the offensive linemen don't need working against them. They're already worried about getting mangled and rolled up on. The last thing they need to be worried about is what proximity they're on the field to look to the sideline, only to get blindsided by some defender that's coming up beside you. Give these guys a little bit more leeway, in my opinion.
Yeah. What did you think about? What did you see the linebacker that smoked Michael Hardman last night? There was no call on that one, of course, because
Yeah,
it's you can hit him at the inside of the one there, right? But just laid him I like how excited would you be as a linebacker seeing this wide receiver coming out of the back with his head already turned, looking for the pass, right?
right.
Bang! Welcome to the NFL, but you're waiting for a few years already.
Poor guy. But McCole Hardman's been he's been performing a little bit better this year for them, so he's probably making himself some money. He's a free agent upcoming here.
Hopefully, making
Um,
me some money too. I invested heavily in his cards. Tonight's game, do you think that does Roquan Smith end the game being the leading tackler in his first game with the Ravens, or what?
no,
No, you don't think so, eh?
no.
Why not?
Well, one, I think that I think the Ravens might beat the shit out of the Saints tonight. Just a feeling I have. Not like I'm a Ravens supporter. Um, I think whatever Saints team we saw shut out the Raiders last week is Fugazi. Only player worth noting on that team. Well, I mean they got Kamara and they got Olave. I think they're gonna get a couple guys back from injury, but unless Andy Dalton runs in a touchdown today and Lamar Jackson runs in a touchdown today, I'm gonna say that both teams suck.
Yeah, there's like not really any offensive weapons. They're gonna be really hoping on like what is it, like a 35-year-old Deshaun Watson or sorry Jackson to show up.
The most likely receiver to score a touchdown tonight. Do you know who it is?
Is it receiver or tight end? Is it a trick question?
No, it's a receiver.
It is the most likely receiver to score a touchdown. I don't even know because Jarvis
Just
Landry's
by
out.
just by odds. Dylan Duvernay.
Oh, he's a
Give me
Texas
a
boy,
break.
isn't he? I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
he's an old Texas boy.
yeah. Give me a break. Like that's not an NFL receiver. That guy is a third
What do you
receiver on
mean?
most teams. He's a third receiver on most teams. Stop. Yeah,
You're such a hater.
yeah. That's just because he plays for the Ravens. Any final thoughts before we sign off here, boys? We got about 2 minutes left.
Nope, I am good.
All right. Well,
It's not going to be a very fun game upcoming on Thursday, is it?
I didn't see who it is.
It's Atlanta and Carolina. Woo!
Didn't they
Giddy up,
just play each
boys.
other like last week?
I don't know.
It's the DJ Moore Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that they played the other like a couple weeks ago, but I mean, I guess they play each other twice. Final thought for me: this would have been the absolute perfect year for NCAA to have an expanded playoff. With Alabama losing their second game, that officially knocks them out of there. And at this point, even if the expansion was just to six, no matter what, someone is being left out because you got Georgia at one undefeated. Um, LSU with one loss that could actually beat Georgia in an SEC championship game. If they were to do that, then you're excluding Tennessee. Michigan and Ohio State have to play each other. And I haven't even mentioned TCU, who's still undefeated and is probably going to be a Big 12 team. That also excludes all
USC.
those three Pac-12 teams that are floating around there in USC, UCLA, and Oregon. So
And
it's
I still think Ole Miss can make some noise here for the remaining part of the season, right?
so they can, but they don't have the ability to jump LSU because LSU beat them straight up, and their only remaining game is against Alabama. So if it came down to it, LSU is getting in over Ole Miss. So a lot of things have to happen in their favor for that something like that to happen. But I agree. Like I think Ole
Well,
Miss is good too.
the last three games are all SEC. I think that kind of helps them. I guess that's what LSU, right? Is LSU's last three games against SEC opponents?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And they're going to have the opportunity most likely to represent that side of the SEC and play Georgia in the championship game. So I think that's going to give them a leg up. It sucks for Tennessee fans, but unless Georgia goes in there and stomps them out, that's the only way Tennessee's finding their way back into it. I'm not like I have any sympathy for Michigan fans, but the Michigan Wolverines are going to get crushed by Ohio State, and they're going to be on the outside looking in. And whether you think an undefeated Big 12 team or a one-loss SEC team is getting in, or a one-loss Pac-12 team is getting in, uh, that's the kind of conversation needs to happen. It's been a while since we've been in this situation, and maybe it's only on the front of mind because they've been talking about expansion, but this would have been the right year to do it. Sounds like there's a whole thing there. Maybe I'll do a video on it because I got a lot of information to spew out on that. We can sign off, go enjoy a little bit of the game. Always check out all the socials: TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, click the notifications if you haven't already, and we will see you